Welcome back to News Central Studios. You just watched the traditional Independence Day speech of Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, and he has highlighted so many issues, so many talking points, and I will be joined by two guests this morning to take a look at some of the highlights of his speech. But before I introduce my guests, let me quickly mention some of the issues that he touched on. So many like I've been writing all morning since he started talking. He started with COVID-19 and the efforts the government is making to ensure that beyond this pandemic, we will have we'll be prepared in case we have any other scenario that has to do with needing vaccines and all of that. He also talked about the global inequality in vaccine distribution and reiterated his call for the global community to ensure that there is equitable distribution and access to vaccine. He talked of insecurity as well. He also talked about the Boko Haram personnel that have been recruited into the army, those that have the Boko Haram insurgents that have repented, about 8,000 of them. He also urged Nigeria to must embrace peace, among other issues. But like I said, my guests are here to help us break down some aspects of the speech. I'm talking in the studio. I have Bamidele Ademola Olateju, political and digital strategist. Thank you very much for joining us. And we're joined virtually by Samuel Akinuga. He's a social commentator as well as a writer. Pleasure to have you both on the program. Good morning. Now, let's go straight up to it. I'll start with you, Bamidele. What's your overall impression of this speech by the president?
Well, I think the president spoke well, and he highlighted a lot of things which are a bit rosy, in my opinion, and overly optimistic. But I hope we are able to achieve those things he mentioned.
Isn't it his job to be overly optimistic? Let's come to you, Samuel. What's your impression of the president's speech?
Well, good morning, Felicity, and happy Independence Day to the Nigerians here and in diaspora. I think that, the president's speech for me just seemed like another well-paced ritual on days like this where you're expected to, give an account of the current state of the nation building effort. So 61 is like another chapter of our nation building project. But he said a lot of things from COVID-19, the pandemic, to issues of security, food security, and the efforts at research and development, issues of national security. But I think by and large, the president said a lot. But I do not necessarily think that he touched on the very important things that would have been more relevant to many Nigerians at this time.
Some would argue, I mean, he's been reiterating since he came into power for the second term that Nigeria, all through his administration, not just the second term, that Nigeria is for all of us and the unity is not negotiable. He reiterated it today. But one of the big issues that's plaguing this country today is insecurity. And he highlighted what he is doing to ensure that we come out of it. Was it also rosy? He mentioned the recruitment of more personnel, the equipment that was bought over the past 3 years are now coming into the country to help the police fight, and then people that are repenting, insurgents that are repenting, and other efforts to improve insecurity. Do you think he touched on issues that Nigerians are happy to hear?
I think he did, but you see, this issue of Nigeria's unity is non-negotiable. I think it's a kind of misnomer because the post-colonial state must always be contested. The rise of ethno-nationalism in Nigeria is because certain things, certain foundational issues are often kept under the carpet, are not discussed. So ethno-nationalism will continue as long as we have that kind of mindset in the post-colonial state. The post-colonial state is not our creation. It's not our creation. So you want people to come together. People have to negotiate their existence in the post-colonial state. To now say it is non-negotiable and we can't do this, we can't do that. See the way he spoke about Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Igboho, he didn't say the same thing.
No, he didn't actually mention Igbo. He only mentioned
Sunday
Nnamdi.
Adeyemo.
Yes.
No, he mentioned Sunday Adeyemo. He did, and he mentioned them in such a way that he didn't even mention the Boko Haram terrorists like that. Those kind of things rile up ethnic sentiments. And that said, the issue of insecurity, the issue of the super tucanos and all those things paid for in the U.S. about 3 years ago, yes, they are coming in. Because from what we read that is publicly available, is that the U.S. insisted that certain things have to be done for those things to come in, and they are being done. Well, we just hope that those people, for example now, 400 Bureau de Change people were fingered as terror sponsors. Where are they? Are they going to be prosecuted? You can buy all the super tucanos in this world, you can buy drones, you can do anything. But if you do not address the issue of terror sponsors that the government knows about, are they more powerful than the state? Why is nobody prosecuting them?
Interesting submission there. Samuel, I'll still stay with that issue of high-profile sponsors of terrorism. He mentioned a 7 National Assembly member, although he didn't say who exactly. And then she's talking about Bureau de Change operators that are fingered as, terror sponsors. What's your impression of his speech when it comes to secession, terrorism, and what they're doing to fight it?
Well, I think to begin with, one very important thing that we all need to understand is that people have rights to feel in certain ways, and we must respect people's decisions or choices to feel different things. So sentiments around ethnicity and then the sense of belonging, which in my view are more responsible for some of the issues, the secessionist agitations, rather than get thinking that it's just some people sponsoring some people somewhere to cause mayhem. I don't think that's right. People over the years have been made to feel that perhaps they do not belong or they feel marginalized. That's usually the word thrown around. And so those things would not be quelled by by the force of arms. I like the fact that he touched on the issues of dialogue and that the intention not to fight for peace. But the truth is, again, I want to try and take this further from the point Mrs. Ademola Olatiji made about the part of the speech when he talked about the secessionist sponsors and then the issues of Sunday DMO and then Nnamdi Kanu. Well, that was good. But the truth is, right now, those people do not represent as huge a threat to our national security as some of the issues up north, perhaps in the northeast and northwest, where majority of the security men are very much engaged. So I think perhaps at that point he missed an opportunity to really, put the record straight. Although I don't know what the intentions were for him. But
yeah,
again,
the both of you seem to agree in that area that there seemed to be an uneven attribution of responsibility when it comes to the causes of insecurity.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's very true. The emphasis he made, or he placed rather, on the crisis here, I don't want to make this seem like a north-south thing, but I believe he could have taken the opportunity to address these things holistically, rather than seeming quite biased towards a particular part of the country. Because the truth is, when we talk about the scale and impact, what has had a more fundamental, what has presented a more fundamental threat to the existence of Nigeria and the life of Nigerians than the crisis we're having to battle with, in different parts of the country, evenly, not just in the south or in the north.
And let me quickly add that Sunday Adeyemo has not killed anyone. He doesn't bear arms. Even though they raided his house and paraded some ammunition, we don't really know, because that is their narrative. So now, can you equate that to the extreme banditry in the northwest or the killings in the northeast?
I think you've both made your point on that issue. There's so many areas where we're time pressed, so I'll quickly come to you on the gender-based violence. Samuel, I would like you to talk on the comment he made about Twitter suspension, that he's lifted it, but there was a big but there. What come to you on the gender-based violence situation? He says that his government is working to, put trial courts in place so that perpetrators of, violence against women will be punished. Do you think that this administration, and from what he has said today, there is a visible effort to address the issue of gender-based violence in Nigeria.
That is actually a welcome development, because I do know that the first ladies, many first ladies across Nigeria, have done a lot of work on the issue of gender-based violence. So many states have domesticated the gender-based violence law in their states with policies in place for prosecution of sex offenders, child molesters, pedophiles, and so on and so forth. Some states have actually gone as far as building sexual assault center where women who have suffered sexual violence can be rehabilitated, can be taken care of. There are doctors, nurses on site. I'm aware that Niger State has done a lot. Ekiti State,
so you're in support of
I'm very much in
effort.
support of that effort, and that is welcome. All over Nigeria, we know during COVID that
there was a spike.
There was a big spike in gender-based violence. So we women have held the short end of the stick for so long. So I really like that.
Relief coming our way.
Yes, I really like that part of his speech. I do.
All right, Samuel, over to you now. He talked about the conditions for Twitter to the suspension to be lifted. He said he has ordered that the suspension be lifted, and then the caveat until they have fulfilled all the conditions that was given. So do you think that Twitter has indeed been suspended? That the ban on Twitter has been removed? Samuel, can you hear me? Okay, I think the network yanked him off, so I'll just pose that question to you as well.
Well, I can quickly find out if Twitter has been...
Well, he said until they fulfill all the conditions.
The Twitter thing, actually, yes, I do know. We know that social media, misinformation on social media, fake news is a big problem. But I think that was an overreach. The suspension of Twitter was an overreach. So much people depend on, so much young people depend on Twitter for trade, for exchange of ideas, for making money through many means. So I think this is just a face-saving thing.
No action, really. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
All right. Now I think we have Samuel back. Samuel, what's your thinking on the seeming double talk when it comes to the suspension of Twitter?
Well, personally, I think that didn't need to make it to the Independence Day speech. I think it was actually needless. But the issue is the points that the president advanced for the suspension of Twitter. Actually, the rightness or the wrongness of that could be debated. But to spend a significant part, about 2-3 minutes, to discuss that and how Twitter presents a threat to national security and all of that, I don't think that was needful. Because the truth is, following the suspension, many people have still found ways to use the platform. And so would we say that since the suspension and the fact that people found ways to use this platform, the threats are still not there? I don't think that's the case. I don't know what the intentions of the handlers were to make. I don't know what point they were trying to make, but it was, I think, needed. And,
all right.
Yes, I think it's been lifted.
Oh, it's been lifted?
She's
just confirmed. I think we can all just confirm now if Twitter has been lifted you can assess it.
Yes.
Because I haven't been there for a while myself. All right, let's quickly see what we can do with some other aspects of the president's speech. Quickly, I'd like you to talk about, let me come to you, Bamidele. He talked about his commitment to ensuring 100 million people are taken out of poverty in this country. He highlighted the fact that he has increased the number of beneficiaries for the Empower scheme to 1 million. Over 100,000 women have been engaged to cook for children, and that 10 million children have been, fed countrywide. So what's your thinking on, looking at the administration? This is going to 8 years now. He has just about 2 years more to go. Do you think that his efforts and the comments that he made is a winning one? Let me just put it that way, that people are being taken out of poverty in this country.
100 million. That
the target is 100 million in 10 years. But do you think that they are scratching the surface when it comes to really taking people out of poverty?
No, with unemployment approaching 30%. How does he intend to do that? I think that's just a feel-good thing, in my opinion, because we know that almost 30 million people are out of job in Nigeria, and that means 1 out of every 2 people, because children can't work, the adult population, that's what it translates to. And that's really tragic, very, very tragic, because in political economy, we do know that the population growth, we do know that the economy is expected to grow more slowly than the population. So how is he going to do this? Because every year, almost 3 million people will come into the workforce. How?
I mean, the conversation around employment and taking people out of poverty depends on what part of the divide you're coming from. Are you in the elitist environment, or you are in the everyday category? You're on the street and you see people. Some would say that doesn't seem like scratching the surface at all. But let's come to you, Samuel, quickly. Your take on his efforts to engage youths in governance. He talked about appointment of people, young people, engaging them in politics, scholarship, soft skills, and all of that. Do you think that this government's commitment, from what he has said, is clear for everyone to see that they are truly engaging the youth in governance and taking them out of poverty?
Okay, first, in the involvement in government and, of course, the appointment into positions of authority. An argument could be made that perhaps there are decent efforts being made, to get 1 or 2 people who, in quote, are young into very significant offices. But by and large, the challenges would always be on the makeup. So, for example, if you look at the Federal Executive Council, how many people there are perhaps below the age of 40, or say around 35 years? So for me, the whole conversations around, this is what we've done, seems quite tokenistic, where you say, okay, let's give this person some special advisor on this, or although you must commend the appointment of the EFCC chairman, which I guess is a very brilliant example of what government has done, but by and large, and throughout the entire government, there's not so many significant appointments that you can say are in the hands of young people.
All right, in winding down quickly, I mean, holistically, this speech, and I would appreciate if you both can speak in 20 seconds each. Okay. That's a short time. He said, our collective can-do attitude of Nigeria keeps us going as a united, indivisible nation. And he also acknowledged that never in our history have we had more heightened challenges than today. It means that he is not unaware of the challenges in the country. What he has done, a lot of person would say, is try to highlight what he and his administration is doing. So holistically, do you think that that aspect about Nigeria's can-do attitude is what is keeping us together? Let me start with you, Samuel, quickly in 20 seconds.
Well, yes, I think that is correct. Nigeria remains Nigeria now, much to the spirit of Nigerians, right, to those who lead it. But for an Independence Day speech, I think it was, too long. He said a lot, but then he delivered very low on inspiration, which I think is very needed in this time for every Nigerian.
Yeah, I think Nigeria know they carry last.
I like that.
So Nigeria know they carry last. Apologies to Pius Adesomi. The can-do spirit is known all over the world. There's something about the Nigerian spirit that cannot be cowed. But for me, that speech, like he said, is too long. It's so boring. And the problem about Nigeria is just 5 things: poverty, unemployment, corruption, education, and terrorism. That's it. That's all he needed to talk to us about.
That's it, but it's a huge, each of them have, aspects to it. But I want to say thank you very much. Bamidele Ademola Olateju, political and digital strategist. It's a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
And of course, Samuel Akinuga, social commentator and writer. Thank you for the gift of your time this morning as well.
Our pleasure, it's been. Thank you. Thank you very much.